A Ukrainian journalist died in Russian captivity, on the verge of her salvation. Was she murdered? We talk about the tragedy with Natalya Humenyukl, a Ukrainian journalist and author specializing in foreign affairs and war reporting. Natalya is a co-founder and CEO of the Public Interest Journalist Lab and a co-founder of the independent media Hromadske, a media company that Viktoria Roschina worked for before she was murdered by the Kremlin. My colleague Pavlo Stelmakh leads the talk interview on UATV English.
So within this period of time, since Viktoria Roschina, a brilliant and very brave Ukrainian journalist who was held in the captivity in Russian occupied territories since what we know, August 2023, when she most probably left for Melitopol. That's where there was the latest information about her physical presence. That's what we know. Quite a few international journalistic and media organizations were involved, and what I know, trying to figure out where she is, what is there. But we need to admit that, unfortunately, at this stage, the international organizations do not have much leverage to influence Russia. It's happening for quite a long time. So if some years ago, maybe a decade ago, a call to free a journalist would be there, and maybe would be a pressure for such politicians as the Russian President Putin, it's just not working any longer. And it's something very sad and to admit. So in this particular case, we know for sure that quite a few colleagues were helpful at different stage, trying to help, but they just are not capable. And that's something to admit. So it's not that much about, ignoring. Also, we need to understand that there are so many other Ukrainian journalists in Russian captivity so far. I would push as well that indeed, in particular in the case of occupied Crimea, this is not a new news. It's the citizen journalism are in detention for quite some time, and it's very hard to tell this story. But in case of Viktoria Roschina, it's like there was a bit more attention. We also should say there were the limits to how much we knew to have like a bigger campaign, because we didn't know exactly where she was for quite some time. But we need to admit that yes, the usual treaties, international orders has its limits to influence. There is this very, very complicated process of prisoners exchange. Sometimes some of the countries are facilitating this exchange, including like the issues with children who's been taken to Russia. But yes, there is a very limited capacity of the world to do it through the usual channels. So it should be something else. Support of the international community, mainly because Ukraine is the democratic state, and it's possible for international reporters from all over the globe, from Colombia to some other countries, to come to Ukraine and work. So compared to how it was in 2022, there is really, a proper coverage of the war against Ukraine in the international media. Honestly, as always, way more than I could expect. Now, with this particular tragic news about the death of Viktoria, who largely was not very known internationally. I shouldn't say that, we knew quite a few of her colleagues know her, but, also it's not like every Ukrainian knew her. Of course, there is this interest there. So, I think like all the major publications are writing, speaking. But as well, that is a general tragedy in journalism that the worse things are there, the more similar crimes are happening, the less interest is there. I do think that, we as a Ukrainian colleagues, for me, the question as well, like how much we were writing about Viktoria, how much, have we resources to speak about her. At this stage, I think it's very important for us to understand that, there are so many things happening globally. We also have our limits to understand, to be involved in other conflicts and tragedies about the situation, the journalist with numerous countries internationally. I think that what something is to stress is that we know what's going on in the occupied territories. In the Russian occupied territories. I work with a project on the war crimes documentation, and that's not a surprise. We talked to dozens of the people, and even who left who've been imprisoned in particular in Zaporizhia region, including in Berdyansk, Melitopol, other areas. We know that they were all humiliated. They lived through the they were beaten. They might be sometimes electrocuted and tortured, and it's quite a common thing for a Ukrainian citizens who got into the, not just Ukrainian citizen, but any independent-minded person who was illegally detained in the occupied territories to be submitted to this type of the violent activities. So kind of most of the people to whom we talk who went through the Russian captivity were either beaten or tortured. And that's something which is happening already for 2.5 years, and there is enough information about that. Of course, these are the closed territories. We might don't know particular details about the particular places, but overall we know. So for us, it's more important to pass this message that for Ukraine, the occupation is not really a choice. It's not just there, you have a different flag and things are, I don't know, like just a bit different. It's not even like it was before 2022 in Crimea and in occupied Crimea, but the risk to the people is very severe. So that's why, Viktoria didn't survive this imprisonment. Who knows if it was like half a year, if it was like after 8 months, there were still chances. So what we know, the time is not on our side for the people who kept in the detentions. They need to be freed because the longer they are there, the risks are higher. And also the Russian occupation of these territories is not something to be tolerated. So I think that there is something unprecedented. The International Criminal Court issued the warrant for Vladimir Putin 1 year after the full-scale invasion, which is really very unusual and very fast. And now there are already 6 warrant arrests against the leadership of the Russian Federation, also accused on the attacks on the Ukrainian on the infrastructure. It's actually very important because the ICC is taking very strategic cases, as we see, against this senior Russian leadership, not something we could expect. So the process is ongoing, and it's way more positive than I would have expected that in 2022. Unfortunately, the discussion about the creation of the special tribunal on the crime of aggression is still, slower than we would expect, but it should happen. But we need to understand that the most of the investigations would be taking place in Ukraine, mainly because Ukrainian state has a kind of capable law enforcement. They need support. It's so far the General Prosecutor Office of Ukraine has registered over 135,000 of the alleged war crimes, and it's a huge number. So the support is needed. But yes, it's already the 3rd year of the war, so Ukrainians expect kind of more trials, more investigations. But we are not on the, it's not like staggering. It's the process is okay. Yet indeed, we do believe that in particularly legally, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a journalist, but within the current work, I collaborate a lot with the lawyers. We understand that, for instance, the journalists, they are protected. So, everybody should be protected, but there are the vulnerable groups, there are the journalists. So attacks against journalists, like against the religious leaders, against some particular type of people, are legally considered to be more severe crime. because these people should be protected. So legally, there should be more responsibility. And so it's not about my opinion. It just really should be the case. The crime, again, the journalist, kind of according to the law, has the right to be in that territory. They can right to go. So maybe not now, but we as a colleagues of Viktoria would like to have, you know, to know who is responsible, who is in charge. It's partially our task because in the end, there are so many people, there are so many numbers, there are so many tragedies. But if we, the close colleagues of Viktoria, wouldn't kind of follow her individual case, who then? So there is a particular moral obligation on her friends and colleagues to do more.
And for now, I'm saying my goodbyes. Thank you so very much for your time. It was me, Henry Keane, and UATV English team. We did our best to deliver the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Please like, subscribe, and comment in return. Your voice matters as it helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Stay safe and tuned for more on UATV English. Goodbye.